lost. And then they now brought up the matter again in the election petition. And even though they lost in the tribunal, they lost in the Court of Appeal, they still went to the Supreme Court. That is needless litigation. And you begin to wonder what the lawyers are up to. Are they using the court as an experiment? It shouldn't be. Because you are a lawyer, you are enjoined to advise your client professionally without any emotion. If your client does not listen to you, you give him back his case. There is no need going to the Supreme Court, going to the Court of Appeal on a needless point of law that has been resolved by the appellate court in several cases.
Let's hold that thought, Tivobla.
It's bad.
Let us quickly, get back to the phone line. Okorafo has called from Arochukwu in Abia State. Good morning, Mazi.
Good morning, my brother Nifemi. Good morning, our guest. Now, you see, what has just glittering now in our polity is very, very hard and very, very strong. That is to say that the politicians in each political parties, they should allow power. They should just keep power aside and follow protocol and follow the normal sequence of a political party guidelines. It will help us. A situation whereby some people will join a political party, they will just gang up that if it's not their own candidate, the political party must not exist. Such position will not move. That's how we tell them. They are now making our judiciary look at the judgment that the Abuja own gave in terms of the House of Assembly in Plateau State. Now look at the judgment the Abuja judge gave in terms of Kano. Now, to name them, just a few. Now, if you see that, even though you didn't go to any university to read law or to go to law school, you start asking yourself, what are the judges thinking? What is the type of judgment they are making? How do they take their record? How do they take their brief? Because a layman will start asking you, because is that a lawyer? Look at the type of judgment that is going on. It's in judgment between zigzag. Supreme Court just clamped down. What the Supreme Court said was a fact. That is to say, we have to go and review our judiciary system. Not talking about the Constitution. Constitution is that of our battle that is still going on. Yes. And the National Assembly are creating a very big problem. Every day they collect money, they are reviewing Constitution, right from Ekuremadu regime and Salaki regime. I was expecting that by now that Constitution could have been ready, signed by the president. Now, what are we saying? The area we go back to the basis and put our Constitution straight, and the area the judicial system go back to the basis and do the rightful thing at rightful time and forget about sentiment or they say, and put the Constitution. It's better for us. If we continue that.
Mazi, thank you for your contribution. We're going to talk about the role of the National Assembly shortly. Tivobla, I want to get your reaction to the position of the former chairman of the NHRC, Professor Odin Kalu, who called on the president of the Court of Appeal to resign her position. He's described the case of Plateau State as a willful miscarriage of justice.
Well, I don't think we should use the social media or the electronic and print media to fight judges and make a show and play to the gallery. Anybody who feels that the president of the Court of Appeal has committed a professional misconduct, there's a procedure. You petition him to the National Judicial Council, and the National Judicial Council will look into the matter and decide one way or the other. I don't think it is right for us to begin to use the media to advocate that judges who have done so and so should resign or should be removed. There's a procedure, because if you do that, it's an act of impunity. In as much as we are advocating for the deepening of the rule of law in Nigeria, constitutionalism and democracy, we should not also do things in a capricious, in a whimsical manner that will become a laughing stock in the Committee of Nations. So I will not subscribe to that point of view. But if he has grounds to petition the president of the Court of Appeal, let him go ahead. and petition her to the National Judicial Council and support the petition with good grounds.
Sunny has called in from London. Good morning.
Morning, Ifemi, and good morning, Chief Odoi. First and foremost, yes, good analysis by Chief Odoi, and I think there are 2 points I would like to make here. One, the issue of the Supreme Court judgment. The first question we should be asking is that should Supreme Court, knowing that the State Assembly election and the judiciary process for it, hence in the Court of Appeal, should they have made pronouncement about that judgment? I'm surprised people are having a blind spot about that. I think there should be a question about the Supreme Court. Should they have made a pronouncement over a judgment that was not even brought before them, and they don't have question about it? I think that question needs to be answered. The second point I'd like to make is this. I'm a bit worried about the direction of our politics. And in the sense that when you look at the Constitution of the Federal Republic and the section that gives power to political parties, it is clear that the constitution of every political party matters. They are in order, they are in pecking order. Now, from what we are seeing now, it looks like what the judiciary is saying is that political parties no longer have to follow even their constitution and the guidelines they have written for themselves. And this is a very dangerous direction, because if you are a political party, you set in tone in your constitution that this is the way you are going to be electing your candidate for election, and you deviate. And another person, maybe who pays attention, saw that what you've done is wrong as a political party and challenge you on that. Because that is what I'm getting, that our judiciary or our lawyers or our judges are saying the constitution of a party or the procedure as defined by each party no longer matter. As far as some people gangs up in a particular political party and say, you know what, even if you've gone through primaries, we are the ones in this party that will still decide who becomes a candidate. I think these are two areas that are very, very dangerous for our politics. And I think I just felt I should make this clear. Thanks, Mr. for a good job, and thanks, Chief Order.
Thank you, Sonny, for your contribution. His first comment, Chief Obla, was whether or not the Supreme Court should have made a comment, on the judgment of the Court of Appeal, since they have no power over it.
Well, I don't think so. I think the Supreme Court, as I said, is a court of review. The Supreme Court will always look at every paper that is contained in the record of appeal emanating from the lower court. So I believe maybe that judgment of the Plateau State High Court is the record of proceedings and also the records of appeal, because that position was canvassed in the election tribunal by the petitioner. It canvassed, so I believe they must have tendered those proceedings before the election tribunal, and then they went to the Court of Appeal and then the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court will always ensure that every relevant records, because both parties are always invited for settlements of records at the registry of the appeal where the appeal is emanating from. So when they were preparing the records, when the governor of Plateau State appealed, I believe the lawyers from both sides were invited by the registrar of the Court of Appeal to look at all the documents before moving the records to the Supreme Court. So I believe the Supreme Court was seized of the records, seized of that judgment. If otherwise they cannot make a pronouncement on what is not before it, because it is a court of review. Review means looking at the documents and all that in order to see whether there was an error, whether there was a mistake that should be corrected. That is the work of the Supreme Court as a court of review.
Mukhtar has called it. Just a minute, sir.
Okay.
Okay, let me just take this call briefly, and then I'll be back with you, Chief. Good morning, Mukhtar. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Good morning. How are you doing?
Terrific. Please go ahead with your contribution.
I really commend you for the good job you are making.
Thank you, Mukhtar.
Yeah, I just want to make some few comments and complain as far as TVC is concerned. You see, the viewers in the Northwest, you are always neglecting when they call to contribute. Your people always concentrate in Lagos, like Yakub, George, Pastor. You don't consider the Northwest viewers. We patronize CBC as far as this program is concerned. But most of us are being neglected. Now, in the case of Supreme Court judgment, I really commend them, and they saved the nation. Yes, and the Supreme Court judgment really saved this nation. Really saved this nation, because they did what is supposed to be done. I really commend them.
All right.
And the tribunal and the Court of Appeal, I think those judges should be punished, because they know what they are doing is wrong. Thank you very much.
Well, before you go, Mukhtar, I can give you my word that there is no bias to picking the calls. We just pick the calls as they come. And because the conversation is ongoing, your call might also be delayed until there is room to pick the call. It's perhaps why we're able to pick your call as well. And I'm sure it's not the first time you've called on the show. So you should be able to also attest to that. Yeah, Chief, you were going to say something just now.
Yes, I was going to say the caller from London he was giving the impression that judges have helped political parties to throw away their constitution. Yes, I want to correct that impression. I don't agree with that. You see, the Nigerian lawyers are the one causing confusion or mothering up issues. You can challenge their constitution, their process of nomination through pre-election matters. Okay? That is before election. There's room for people who are aggrieved over party nomination process to go to the Federal High Court. And you can litigate from the Federal High Court right to the Supreme Court. But sometimes you see lawyers, because there's a thin line between pre-election and post-election, some lawyers going to the election tribunal and then trying to smuggle in the nomination process under the guise that maybe the person is not constitutionally qualified. Like we saw them talking about the nomination process in Kano of NNPP, that the governor was not a member of MPP, and therefore he shouldn't have contested. They try to bring it under section 177 of the Constitution that says that before you are eligible to stand for election, you must be a member of a political party. So that is where the confusion is coming from. And if you are not, if a judge is not very careful, you can easily get muddled up, you know, because sometimes if you read the cases, it seems as if you can go to election tribunal, you cannot go also through to a pre-election court. So we should always try to encourage our clients after the primary primary election process where candidates are nominated. People should go to people who are challenging maybe the eligibility of a candidate that has been pronounced the winner of the party primary election. They should go to the Federal High Court that has jurisdiction, and then try to push it to the Supreme Court. But while they are filing their petitions after election, they should concentrate on the Electoral Act, the infringement of the Electoral Act by INEC or the other party, and also the infringement of the constitutional provisions that has to do with eligibility to contest. But if you try to muddle up and mix up nomination and qualification, then it becomes a problem, and that is why my friend from London is having this impression that
I hear you clearly, Chief.
The judges, the courts are throwing away the party's constitution. Also, lastly, we should have good political parties. Those who are in the national executive committees of our parties should run the political parties like parastatals. Be transparent, be just. They should also be well educated, because I expect all the political parties to start studying the judgments of the of the election tribunal, the Supreme Court, they should start studying them.
Unfortunately,
in the next
it's like
4
a
years,
cycle.
we should not see those mistakes.
The parties keep making the same mistakes, year in,
exactly,
every election.
Exactly,
year.
because they don't elect.
Let's take
one
last call,
They
Chief,
don't elect.
before we go.
Let me
Let's
make
take
this
one last
point.
call.
Fine.
Okay, please go ahead. Go ahead, Chief.
Go ahead. They don't elect competent people to man our political parties. They are just running the political parties casually. They should run the political parties like parastatals, okay? And make sure that competent people are recruited, lawyers, accountants, are recruited to work in the political parties, to help the political parties. Otherwise, our political parties are becoming laughing stock, because they just bring people to come and become national chairman, legal advisor, and so forth and so on. People who are not really competent and just and fair-minded.
Let's take one last call. Adenuga has called in from Songo. Adenuga, you have just 1 minute. Please go ahead.
Thank you. You know what? By the judgment of the Supreme Court, Nifemi, one day a foreigner will become a governor and a president of Nigeria. Since anybody, the laws of the political party, they don't, a political party that willfully flout its own law is supported by the Supreme Court. One day, a foreigner will be imposed as the president of Nigeria, and there's nothing you cannot do because of the president of that central bank has said. And I think electoral election is a process. Any part of the process that is faulty should be sanctioned. If political parties have done wrong things, and the Supreme Court is supporting it. Look at Kano. They said that some election papers were not signed, and the Supreme Court said that yes, it's okay. So next time, you are giving energy and power to INEC to do the same subsequently, because they have a backing of the Supreme Court now that says that, look, if you don't even sign what you should sign, it is okay. Supreme Court judges are not, God, and their decisions sometimes are also wrong. We should also know that. So we should not say the Supreme Court has said this and that is God. They are God. No.
All right. We have to go. Thank you so much for your contribution. They say if you don't get judgments at the Supreme Court, then you go to God. But I think the position on the foreigner is very clear, that if you have a citizenship, if you were born in Nigeria and as a Nigerian and then you get the citizenship of another country, it still doesn't stop you from running for political offices in Nigeria.
Exactly.
But that's our show today. Thank you so much for your contribution. I've been speaking with legal practitioner and former presidential aide. He was former senior special assistant to the president on recovery of public property, Chief Okoyo Bono Obla. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us on the program this morning.
Thank you.
That's our program, everyone. We're back tomorrow, God willing. The conversation continues on X, formerly Twitter. Remember to use the hashtag this morning and tag at Nifemi Oguntoye. Good morning.